Welcome to the Kiwi Wedding Podcast. Today on the show we have Amelia Budd. Amelia and Dean got married at their home in their back garden. This was planned to be just like a signing and elopement kind of thing, and then do a big celebration later. But you will hear how their plans changed a little bit. It is a beautiful example of doing something small on a lower budget, and that is still really intimate and memorable. They had less than 15 people and a beautiful celebration and dinner at home. So I'm really excited for you to hear this one. I was their photographer. Make sure you pop over to Instagram at the Kiwi Wedding Podcast to check out some of the photos from the day. I also wanted to mention that the podcast is a finalist in the Wild Hearts and Together Journal NZ Top Vendor Awards for 2023. Such an honour and so grateful for everyone that nominated us. And if you're listening to this in early September 2023, you can go and vote for us. We are under the Inspiration and Planning Tools category, and would so appreciate any of your vote. I'll pop a link in the show notes and on Instagram so you can go and do that. I'd be so grateful. I look forward to seeing everyone who is going to the Auckland Wild Hearts Wedding Fair on the 17th of September as well. Let's get into today's episode. If you are thinking of doing something small, maybe at home, Amelia has some great advice around getting resourceful and still planning really beautiful details for your day. Enjoy episode 6 with Amelia. Hi Amelia, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. I was blessed to be your wedding photographer, and yeah, you had a bit of a different, smaller wedding, so I'm excited to chat to you about that. Just to start with, if you could tell me a little bit about you and your husband, how you guys met and what you like to do.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited about this podcast, and I know it's just going to be absolutely fabulous. So I'm just happy to be a part of it. So Dean is Kiwi, and I am obviously, from the sound of my voice, British. And we met in London in 2018. And did long distance for a while, and then he was playing professional sport in Italy, so I ended up moving out there. And we sort of toyed with the idea of a European wedding, and then COVID hit. And obviously at this point we still weren't engaged, but we were, talking about things in the future. And I'd always envisioned a British or a European wedding, and eventually we decided to come back to New Zealand and kind of postponed any thoughts of engagement. We just bought a house, so we weren't thinking about engagement or wedding really. But then he ended up proposing to me the night we moved into our new house. And that really put a spanner in the works, because then we had to start planning a wedding. Ended up needing to have a wedding here for lots of different reasons. I thought we would just do something super small. And then, that's when you came and witnessed it all.
Love that. So yeah, you've kind of told us a little bit about the proposal story. Was it just like quite chilled, just in your home together? Were you expecting it at all, or was it a big surprise?
I wasn't expecting it at all. And as like a total control freak about so many other things, I just thought he would never be able to propose without me knowing about it ever. And I can tell you that I was surprised, because my nails were horrendous. In fact, that day, this nail finger had snapped, and it was like a U shape in. It was like horrendous. And I remember my outfit was terrible, and it was super dark because it was in July, which obviously in New Zealand is winter. And we just moved into this house, and I was on my way home from work, and I was running a little bit late, and he was just texting me being like, "Where are you? Oh, you're much later than usual." And I'm thinking, what the hell? Like, leave me alone. I'm on my way back. I'm stuck in traffic. I've just worked a full day. And then I come in, and he's at the door a little bit like a puppy. And he had a GoPro, and he's like, "Oh, let me walk through the house with you so your family can see us, the first night in the place, and they can see, the rooms and everything." And I thought, oh, that's a really weird idea, but okay, I'll do that. So there I was walking around the rooms, and you can kind of see me on the GoPro just like looking back and being like, what are you doing? And then as I was walking back into our living room, he was obviously behind me, and I turned around and he was on one knee. Um, and then he had proposed. And then the surprise got even bigger because all our friends, like our close friends and family, obviously on his side, my family are in the UK, came for dinner. And it was like we had no furniture in the house, nothing, but everyone bought champagne and like fish and chips and pizza. And we just like celebrated that evening. And I still, to this day, I'm like, I have no idea how I didn't know what was going on because I know everything. Oh, but apparently not. But yeah, it was pretty wild. But it was really really cool, really cool. But even then, we'd obviously just bought our first house, and so despite being engaged, a wedding wasn't really on the cards anytime soon.
I love that story. Such a yeah, cool surprise that you weren't even expecting it at all, and having all your family there to celebrate. That's so fun. Well, his family, not all of yours.
And can I just give a tip, a tip to husbands out there, fiancés, hint that they need to get a manicure or something. Tell a friend, tell anyone, so that they can just be half prepared. But yeah, it was beautiful, and it will always be a magic memory for sure.
Because you just need to get that ring shot straight away and show it off.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. That's another thing. He had bought a Wendy's takeout for me with flowers as like the dinner before everyone arrived. And so my first picture of like my wedding ring was in front of a Wendy's cheeseburger.
When it came to planning your wedding, did you have a vision in mind that you had always thought about? You talked about thinking that you might get married in the UK or Europe, and yeah, obviously that changed a little bit, but yeah, how did you go about deciding where you were going to get married and the whole vibe for the day?
Well, I think the decision came when we had been we right after we got engaged, within days we found out that we were expecting, and then within a month or two after that we realized we were expecting twins. So the wedding planning was just not going to happen. And then by the time the boys were sort of 9 or 10 months, we thought, okay, let's sort of see what we can start planning. And we were looking at flying over to Europe or flying to like a middle ground country, because obviously all of Dean's family in New Zealand and mine are in the States and the UK. And so we were looking at a couple of different places, but again, being a little bit of a control freak, like the fact that I wouldn't be able to be there to plan something and would basically just have to roll up to like a few days before the wedding and just hope to God that everything was okay. I felt like I wasn't really coming to terms with that. And then Dean sort of said, well, it's either we don't want also had a great point of both families would then have to travel. So would it make more sense to just do it in one place or the other? So only one side of the family was traveling. So we thought, okay, like we can sort of let's go off that. But then still just couldn't decide where that was going to be. And at the time, our friends and family were dotted everywhere. By that point, we've got a lot of friends still in sort of the rugby world, and a lot of people, like a lot of our friend group, have new babies too. Probably like half a dozen. And so it was catering to all of that. And obviously at that point it was becoming quite last minute, because we sort of like, we should probably hurry up and get married. And so I thought, oh, let's just do a tiny wedding here in New Zealand. And tiny started to turn into, I want a professional photographer, I want a professional cake. And once you start doing little bits, it sort of snowballs. But yeah, so we eventually decided on a back garden wedding. And up until the day, it was really just going to be like, we're just signing papers. And in fact, I wouldn't let anyone call it a wedding. Like if you look on our family group chat, it's like, it's a signing of paper ceremony. It's not our wedding. We're going to do something else. We're going to do like a big party, blah, 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 blah. And so we ended up just inviting Dean's immediate family and then my immediate family. But unfortunately, my dad and one of my brothers couldn't make it. Well, both my brothers couldn't make it. So just my mum from my side of the family came, which kind of, again, up until the day I was like, there's no way this is a wedding, because everyone, like a lot of my family and the people I love aren't here. And so, yeah, then we had the back garden ceremony. And after that, I was like, this could do us. This could do us. And I think for just going on to the question of what sort of the vibe was, again, I kind of kept it quite low key because I was like, it's just a back garden wedding. So I did a lot of like elopement ceremony, Pinteresty boards, back garden weddings. And then again, because I'm like, well, if I do this, I've got to do this. And so it did start to snowball a little bit. I ended up getting sort of writing down a wee list of things that I wanted to check off, even though it was just going to be small. And the good thing about having it so small meant that you had like a little bit of extra costs other places because you weren't sort of feeding 50 more people. So I spent money on a beautiful florist, a wonderful camera woman, and a couple of props and a cake. And that was kind of it. And the props were really, really cost effective. And the rest of the rest of my props came from the $2 store. So like all the disco balls and the glassware came from the op shop. Like a lot of all the glass and plates all came from the op shop. And my dress came from an online boutique. And I didn't try it on until a few days before the wedding.
And it all came together amazingly. Like it just looked so well done and not like a $2 shop wedding. I love that. It's just getting resourceful with what you can get.
Yeah, absolutely. Resourceful and cost effective. Because I think in my head I was still just like, this isn't the big day. So it just has to look nice because we're going to do something else. I did make everyone wear white because again, I was like, that just reinstates that it's not a wedding, it's a white party. It's a white party signing of papers. And I'm so glad I did do that because the photos came out absolutely amazing when everyone was wearing the same color tone. And yeah, I wanted white, and then the only pop of color I wanted were from the flowers, and the florist got it like so well. Like I didn't really have many inspo images, and I was really like, just let her do her thing, and she just absolutely nailed it.
But what were the most important elements of the day for you? Your top priorities, obviously signing the papers, but yeah, were you thinking most about like the dress, the food? What was most important?
Probably that my twins made it to the photos without having a total mental breakdown. Because at the time, I think it was like 3 or 4 days before their first birthday. And I remember I had like from the beginning of the day, their entire routine, like down to the most finite detail. And I was like Motherzilla, making sure everyone was following what I was doing because I knew that we had photos at like 5:30, and the whole chain of events that would get them to be in front of the camera. And I'm pretty sure you shot them for no more than sort of 4 or 5 minutes, and before
too fast.
Yeah, before Rocky crapped his pants in these beautiful outfits that I'd ordered from Europe for him. But anyway, that was probably my main priority because I was so desperate to get gorgeous images of the boys. And you and I had sort of pre-planned timings and things like that all around the boys, really. And then we kind of churned out all the family photos right away, like all the group shots and stuff like that. One, before everyone got boozy, two, considering the lighting, etc., etc. So honestly, I think the photography was the most important for me. The dress was awesome. I was really happy with the dress and was happy that it looked right. But the moment I knew it looked right, I didn't really think too much about it. And I'm gonna say shoes, but half my wedding photos I'm not even in shoes, so not that. My wonderful father-in-law, his partner Faye, completely took over all the food for us. So I didn't think about the food once. My mother-in-law, who is just awesome. She's one of my best friends. I feel very lucky. She completely delegated the jobs across. So everyone got jobs, what to do, what to bring. It's like a family cookout, except we were getting married. And then my mum was awesome with the boys, and she sort of was delegated to, making sure they were fitting into their timings and things like that. And I had a great support people. I really just delegated to people that I really trusted and who knew me and how I would want things done. And they just were making decisions for me, and that was just a massive help. Even on such a small scale, I can't imagine what it would be like on a bigger form, and you've got 200 people plus, rather than, I think we had maybe like 15 altogether or something, including the kids. Basically, the photos. Back to your point, the photos were most important for me, but it took an entire village, an entire day to make sure that they looked good.
I think we got some good ones of them. They were so cute on the day and their little outfits, and yeah,
Yeah,
everyone matching was so great.
yeah,
Loved
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. Oh, that was another thing, was probably making sure everyone was actually wearing white, as I was panicking,
Yes.
because like beige isn't really white. Like, it has to be white, especially the way things would photograph. So that was a real important thing for me, was just making sure everyone was listening to me. And luckily, because it was such a small group of people, everyone knew me very well and knew that I was bossy and wanted things a certain way. So that really helped. And yeah, as soon as everyone arrived, and as soon as I had my first glass of Prosecco, I was sweet.
It's, yeah, amazing and great support from them, just your nearest and dearest that could be in New Zealand. So,
Yeah.
yeah, really special. Just, I don't know, not having to be so ruthless with the guests. Just, yeah, I guess at that point you thought there was going to be another big one. So,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So it was super casual, in that sense. And then, but after, it's almost like when you have a mini experience, you're like, oh God, like that amplified would be so difficult for like every person involved. Like, I'm even imagining like you as the photographer, like trying to round up people, and like it's just chaotic. And we were small scale, and our family is very, very busy, and we're very loud, and we're very chaotic people as such. But yeah, times that by, my math's not good, but whatever, 300 plus. I mean, that's honestly, when we were totting up like the big wedding numbers, we were getting into hundreds, and it would have just been super expensive too. But yeah, we're glad we did the small one for now. For now, till I find my second husband.
oh, watch out doing that.
Yeah, yeah. Don't
Oh.
listen to this. No, I have an amazing husband. He's awesome.
Oh, is there anything you look back on and you regret or would do differently? Yeah, anything you found hard with the whole wedding planning process?
I think the main thing that stuck in my head is the night of the wedding, like where we stayed. Like, I got us a really beautiful hotel in the CBD, and like by the time we got there, we were really boozed, so exhausted. Like, there was no consummating or anything romantic. We were just like, bleh. And we spent so much money on that hotel, and I'm like, what is the point? And then checked out by like 9 a.m. because we've got kids and had to come home, and like, so I probably wouldn't have bothered with that too much. Again, it's small scale, so if you do it bigger, sometimes you've got a villa with all your friends or whatever it is, and it's a slightly different experience. Or yeah, when you don't have kids, I think it's a different experience. But yeah, that's probably the one thing that I wouldn't necessarily bother with. I also wouldn't think too long and hard about like food and things, because people, and like exactly what it is people are going to eat and how it's going to look on the plate, people just don't care. They're just there for a good time, and they're more interested in the alcohol and the music than they are what it is on their plate. Like, I knew we had beautiful food, and I was really lucky because they organized it all. But I imagine if I was doing it a big scale, it would be like In-N-Out burgers. It would be like cheeseburgers and fries or something like that. Like, I just wouldn't. I would never bother with like a fine dining experience, I think, because I just hadn't anticipated how busy I would be with everything. So yeah, with a small group, definitely worth getting that beautiful sort of meal together. But for a big scale, I wouldn't bother with that. And definitely shoes. I had a short dress, so you could actually see my shoes. But again, your feet get so uncomfortable, and I was just barefoot most of the time. And again, it was in our back garden. But if I had a long dress, there would be no way I was probably even wearing shoes at all. So yeah, shoes and food. Shoes and food.
Great advice. Love that.
Yeah, and hotel. And hotel.
Amazing. Did you have a budget in mind did you like stick to it, or yeah, are you comfortable sharing like a
Yeah,
ballpark figure of what you spent?
to be honest, I can't remember entirely. I'm quite lucky because my parents and Dean's parents paid for the majority of it. Dean's family were incredibly generous. My parents were incredibly generous, and also they're paying in the Kiwi dollar, and obviously they're in the pound. So I was like, 50% off everything. Imagine, like, it's a great price. But we spent the most money we spent. We invested in a good photographer, like someone that we really wanted, which was you, and beautiful flowers. Because I think those two things you can't compromise on. And in turn, a lot of the props were from the $2 shop, the op shop, things like that. And I sort of moved my budget around to what was our main focus. And all our food was covered, which was awesome. Flowers were sort of, were no more than, were less than $1,000. That was a problem. And then the props and stuff were probably maybe $600 or $700 in total. We got border marquee, like things like that. The only things we really kind of paid for were props and flowers and a good photographer. And we shopped around for the props especially. We used a couple different companies. We almost split the stuff in half. So it just pays to do your research, but don't compromise on your photographer or on your florist. That's all I would say. But yeah, we'll personally out of our own pockets, no more than $1,500 for sure.
So great. Yeah, that's amazing. And yeah, it shows that you can do it with any budget and it can still look amazing and be such good memories. Yeah.
Absolutely. And again, if you can't afford the florist, I would almost do the photographer over the florist, because my sister-in-law has an amazing garden and she was offering to do these beautiful wildflowers and things like that. And you can compromise. You can go faux flowers, all different things. Like, I think what you need to do is just really prioritize where you want, like what's like a non-negotiable for you. And that was like me. I wanted the photographer that we wanted. Sorry. Whose day was it? Just mine. But yeah, we just invested it. Wrote down a list of what it was that were our non-negotiables, and kind of stuck to that and made sure that we compromised in everything else, basically.
Cool. Did you guys go on honeymoon at all? Was that straight away, or are you still planning something? How did that go? And yeah, what's the planning that look like?
Well, we haven't yet gone on a honeymoon because we have 2 wee babies and they would have to come with us. And honestly, honeymoon vibes is not a child all-inclusive hotel. I don't want child-friendly hotel for my honeymoon. But no, I think we're looking at maybe doing Fiji next year. We're going back to the UK and Italy for Christmas and New Year this year. And so that will kind of be it. We actually genuinely probably don't really want to leave our babies. So if we did go away, they would come with us anyway. But yeah, we just genuinely didn't think about it. And I think because we initially thought that the wedding, this was just a signing ceremony, was just a signing ceremony. We didn't actually even plan for a honeymoon. It wasn't until like the next day we woke up and we were like, well, guess they're married now. And like, I can see why people elope and things like that, but we didn't. We just eloped back into an Uber, straight back into like home, wiping butts, like tantrums, the lot. So yeah, no honeymoon yet, but the end of the year trip I would probably class as a honeymoon. As glamorous as it gets for parents of 2 kids, really.
Oh, that sounds great. It would be good to get away anyway, whatever that looks like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Were there any helpful like websites or apps, resources that you used when planning your wedding? I know you mentioned Pinterest, which is always a good one, but yeah, anything else you can think of, or how you like found vendors as well?
Pinterest for sort of the vibes, and then Instagram. I found that I found you through Instagram. I found my florist Instagram initially, and then spoke to a couple girlfriends, and they had her as well. And Instagram for resources as such, as in like the products and services, and then Pinterest for the vibe. I think word of mouth is amazing, and it's like real trusting. Like the moment my girlfriend said that she had the same florist, she was she'd had the same florist, and I was gonna use her. I was like, cool, amazing, just trusted like that word of mouth you just can't really beat. And yeah, that's about it. Again, I found you and didn't want to negotiate, so I got in contact with you right away. In terms of props, like actual props like chairs and things, yeah, through Instagram, and then a lot of Googling, and then a lot of price. I would literally just jot down prices and compare, because a lot of the stores have very, very similar product. And it's all just about, I also did, if we're getting like a bunch of chairs from one place, get the rest of like the larger format stuff, like a table, etc., from there. And then if you wanted to do like just a couple of like pretty pops, get it from somewhere else. And so yeah, Google, Instagram, Pinterest, really, and lots of research, personal research. Yeah.
Awesome. Is there any advice that you would give to couples that are planning their wedding at the moment?
Nobody thinks about your day as much as you do, and just nobody will notice half the things that you notice. Guaranteed, actually, that they won't notice it. Because now, having had my own wedding signing ceremony and been to many weddings, you just don't notice stuff. You're just there for a great time, and you're there for a party, really. So don't sweat the small stuff, really. Nobody's thinking about it as much as you are. And boss people around as well. Like, it's your day. Like, don't be afraid to be like, yeah, like, get in that group. You're having a picture taken. Or, okay, now I remember I was literally like, yes, it's my family too, so it was a small group. I didn't have to exactly burn a microphone, but I was like, we're doing cake now, we're doing photos now, we're signing the papers now. And I was just like, ch-ch-ch-ch. And people don't care. It's like your day at the end of the day, and a lot of who you should have at your wedding are people that really love you for who you are, and just be yourself, and yeah, it's your day.
Amazing. That's great advice. And yeah, I think people get so caught up in worrying about what people will think and all the little
Yeah.
details and stuff. But yeah, you're right. People don't think about it as much as you are. So that's an important one to remember.
And I think if you are like, you should never be going into your day like scared of what people are gonna think, because I feel like the people you should have at your wedding just don't give a shit. they just it like they should be good people that you love and trust, and that they love and love you for who you are, and yeah, that should be the last thing we'd be worrying about, what other people think. And I remember, like, literally I was like rearranging and arranging, like the way I had these like glass things from the op shop full of disco balls, and I was like, this one has more disco balls than the other one. So, but bearing in mind the ratio of like boys to men to women was like quite men strong. Nobody's no. I know my husband and brother-in-law aren't noticing how many disco balls are in the glass vase. You know, just like little things like that. Just don't sweat it.
So you've been married a little while now. Is there I don't know, have you felt any different being officially married, or do you have any marriage advice? What is life like now?
Oh my gosh, I haven't really thought about this. I think because we had kids prior, I personally feel like when you have kids, that like that is such a massive, massive commitment. And we were still so in this like hurricane of new baby that we kind of just had this wedding day and then just carried on as we were, like, meow. And I don't think it will be until there may be like 3 or 4 that we'll be like, oh, like, nice to meet you again. So like right now we kind of got married in just a total storm that it didn't rock the boat, or so we didn't really see much of a difference because we were so engulfed in each other and the kids already. There is something comfortable about being able to be like, I have a husband and a family. It does make personally, it makes the family feel quite complete. I love that the boys know that we're sort of like this little tight unit now. And I love that they were able to witness it too. Not that they did for very long. But no, I don't think so. I think people underestimate. I think people sometimes expect there to be this massive change, that you wake up and you're suddenly a wife and you've got a husband, and now you're these amazing things, and you're going to live happily ever after, but you just don't, and you just still have to work at everything every single day. Like, you're both the same person you were like 24 hours before. And I know I hear a lot of people say the first year of marriage is the hardest, but I just feel like it's just the same. Like, you face the same challenges that you did at the beginning. And if anything, I think the reason why there could be issues is because it's a little bit more daunting. Because you're like, oh my God, I'm meant to be with you forever. But yeah, I personally didn't see a huge difference. And I feel like couples shouldn't be like underwhelmed if they get married and they're like, don't see each other any differently. Because it's just papers at the end of the day, and a beautiful ceremony for you and your day.
That's great. Yeah, that's your relationship's already important, and it's just like the legal stuff and then a chance to celebrate with your loved ones, really. So yeah, that's awesome. So we'll share a few. I mean, I've obviously got all your photos if you're happy for me to share a few on the page, and so you guys can see the amazing day that they had, a backyard wedding, and maybe it's something that you can think about doing if you feel a bit overwhelmed with having a massive wedding. That's something to consider, doing it differently. And yeah, I think that is so much great advice. Thank you, Amelia. Is there anything else you'd like to add about the day, or for people that are engaged?
Like, intimacy on your day is everything, and I feel like I was able to be so fully present in a small wedding because I didn't have as much to worry about. I wasn't having to like walk the room of 300 people. I had everyone I wanted to chat to and be with right in front of me, like literally nearly an arm's length away, and that just made for just such a beautiful atmosphere. And I think people really underestimate that you don't need a lot. You don't need to do a lot. And it's down to personal preference too. But having been someone that wanted the big white wedding and then had a small garden ceremony, refused to even call it a wedding, had it and was like, I'm good. That's it for me. For us, I really recommend an intimate wedding. And not to mention, like, in your own back garden, if you're a control freak like me, you have full capacity to like know what's going on the entire time. Super cost effective. It doesn't have to be your own backyard. It can be someone else's, not a stranger's, but a family member's. And it's such a great location. I think it's really underrated, and I would highly recommend.
That's so good. I'm definitely in favour of small weddings, and all the ones that I've been to, there's just something really like intimate and memorable about it, and they're not running around trying to say hi to everyone. Like, it's just really quality time with the people that are there. So that is awesome advice. Perfect. That is all my questions. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, and I can't wait for everyone to hear this.
Thanks for having me.